Welcome to the Two Blokes Chatting radio show on 94.7 The Pulse. Music, interviews, news, and, well, Two Blokes Chatting. Now, here are the two blokes.
Let us introduce to you John Perry, who is the event director of the National 4x4 Outdoors Show. Good morning to you, John. This is Neil. The other one's Rob.
Morning, Rob. Morning, Neil. Thanks for having me on the program.
Thank you for being a part of it. Well, I guess we should start off with the very, very obvious question. What is the National 4x4's Outdoor Show?
Well, it's Victoria's largest showcase of everything, products and services to get you into the great outdoors and enjoy camping and off-roading with your family and with your friends. So, largest one in Victoria. It's the longest running one in Victoria. We've got over 200 exhibitors at the showgrounds. And look, it really is everything to get you out there. So all the four-wheel driving accessories, everything you'd expect to bolt onto or put into a four-wheel drive. Bull bars, lights, tyres, rooftop tents. And then we've got all of the off-road caravans and camper trailers that many people are now getting.
I just started to laugh because I was thinking about Russell Coit. Has he got a site there at all, John?
I had, this is before my time, but he was a guest at the show once, I think. Provided a lot of laughs at the show.
It certainly would put you off camping. But look, we know it only too well down here because Geelong would be the caravan capital of Australia, I'd imagine. A drive out Queenscliff Road here. They are everywhere, but it is something that's becoming more and more common. And I think, maybe COVID changed things a little bit when people stopped jumping on aeroplanes and jumped in a car and or caravan and or camp or whatever, and just went and had a look at Australia. And it seems to now be becoming a pretty popular holiday destination rather than going internationally, John. Would that be fair on numbers?
Oh, look, absolutely. I mean, before COVID, it was growing and people were still very passionate about going to, go to see some of the great landscapes and tracks that we've got here in Australia. But COVID just accelerated it because you were forced to holiday at home. You couldn't jump on a plane. People still wanted to have a holiday. The sale of four-wheel drives, if you could get one, but camper trailers and tents and anything, it exploded. That brought a lot of people into the camping and outdoor market, which probably weren't there before. And I don't think you leave that market once you've gone out camping, with your family. It becomes part of what you do and you enjoy it. The planes are flying again now and people may choose to go back and go on an overseas trip. But, once they've experienced going camping, they're probably going to do it again. And so they're in the market. Yeah, so just the numbers of people that are attending these shows now looking for products or, ideas on where to go for the next trip. It's just been growing.
Great thing for Rob is that he doesn't need that. People keep telling him where to go on a regular basis.
But the thing that fascinates me, I guess, is it's a bit. We have John Didge, who is our regular piscatorial correspondent. He comes on and tells us, you can get into fishing by going out and spending $200, get yourself a rod and a line, and some sinkers, and away you go. Doing what you're promoting. The entry fee's a little bit high, isn't it? And I'm talking about the show. I'm talking about, you've got to go and get yourself a camper van and hire one.
Then a car big enough to pull it.
And a tent and, a gas stove. And, it's not easy to get into.
$2.20 a litre for diesel, plenty of money.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's probably a lot cheaper just to put a tent on your back and walk and go hiking.
You don't get very far, though, do you?
But you don't go very far, and not everyone's into that. So, yeah, look, there is a little bit of a price tag for that, but it's not all about. Not everybody has to go out there and spend $200,000 on the latest vehicle and put all the latest gear on there. You can build up over time with a vehicle that isn't going to cost you $100,000. And but one of the things that we do at the show to promote ideas around that is we run a competition, a show and shine competition, and this isn't about show vehicles that are built by manufacturers, to showcase the top of the range. What we do here is we invite just general public to put their car into the competition, and then we select the ones for the show which we think are the most interesting examples of what you can do with a vehicle. And these are everyday people who've they may have built their vehicle up over 5 years, 10 years, so the end result's quite amazing. But they've done it in a what I'd say is a lower cost way, so it's more accessible. And so Saturday, Sunday, we normally have about 30, 35 vehicles on display, and you can go around, you can have a chat with people about how they've built the vehicle up, what they've done, what rooftop tent works, what doesn't, and just have a look at some of these things. And they really are very cool, really are very amazing. And I've often seen people come away with, that's a great idea, I'll do that to my vehicle, or this is what we plan to do. So it can be accessible to everybody.
Now, speaking of high end, there is a new phenomenon called glamping. Is there a fenced-off area at the show? Because this 4x4 outdoor sounds very tough, rugged, earthy sort of a way to holiday, but there's other people who like the thought of the experience but could not go away without all of the pleasures of life. Is you covering up on that as well?
Not glamping per se, but I have seen some very nice looking mattresses in some of these four-wheel drive caravans and camper trailers. And they have hot showers. So it's not the, I think maybe 20 years ago it was probably a little bit more rugged and rough than it is now. So you can have that glamping experience, I think, in some of these new new products that are out there on the market.
Yeah, I'll be quite honest with you, John. I couldn't think of anything I'd like to do less, to be honest. But part of that's because I'm 6'3", and when I was growing up, we had a caravan and we would go out camping. And as soon as I got to about 5'10", everything I did was uncomfortable in any form of camping, whether it be a tent, a caravan, a camper trailer. Has that changed?
Yes, I mean, it's certainly. I think the variety and the selection of these products has certainly grown. So and also I think the vehicle sizes have grown as well. So you can certainly get tents and accessories to sleep in to go on these vehicles, which work for bigger sizes. So it absolutely has. It absolutely has. There are the compact. I mean, it depends what you're looking for. There are compact ranges that people want because space is an issue, or they just want to go lighter weight, and you can then get the larger, more comfortable, more glamping varieties that suit larger people. So certainly the diversity of the ranges of product to select now is certainly greater than it ever was.
I could see myself driving that thing that Robert De Niro drives in Meet the Fockers. I could see myself driving that.
We do actually. I can't remember exactly what we have for next week, but we often do have some display vehicles as well. But these are probably more like expedition trucks.
Yeah, $500,000 price tag or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah. Neil or Rob, that would probably suit you more, the expedition truck.
Yeah, I reckon he'd be right at home in that. He's somewhere between glamping and luxury, but he's well connected around Australia. We've got a segment on the show called Regional Roundup, and we talk to someone remote every week, and that's what's making me thinking that there's a lot to see about Australia, and you don't have to necessarily go too far between hops to have a pretty good experience. And that side of it, we know you're going to be doing the products, but is there also a little bit of a segment, some businesses promoting particular venues and particular regular routes that people can take up and down the east coast, across the top, or even over to Western Australia?
We've got a new stage in the show this year called Tracks and Trips. So it's actually a program of different topics on different tracks and trips that people can take. So we've got four-wheel drive Victoria. They're talking about some of the iconic tracks around Victoria. A lot of those are located up in the high country. So it's all about what to expect and how to prepare for these things. That's really the whole point of these talks. We've got another one which will be, we've got an expert from Fraser Island, sand driving. So he's going to be talking about trips on the tracks on Fraser Island. And another one, Kima Map. So the guy there, he's just come back from crossing the Simpson Desert.
Okay.
So again, it's what to expect. You need to be prepared to cross the Simpson. So he's going to be talking about, what you need to think about for that. So absolutely. And then the other thing we do, affiliated with Four Wheel Drive Victoria, we have a bunch of clubs, so four-wheel drive clubs. They're on display at the show, and great chance to go and have a chat with people about that. They will do every weekend, or every month. They're doing trips, club trips. So it's a great opportunity to go and chat with the clubs about what they do, where they go, and you might even sign up and join a club and do it that way.
So being very perceptive as we are here on the Two Blokes Chatting radio show. By the way, folks, we're talking to John Perry. He's the event director for the National 4x4 Outdoor Show. I believe just the perception is that you may not have spent all of your time in your life in Australia. I reckon you might have been born somewhere else.
Very observant.
Yeah, we're good like that. So, say it again.
North England.
Okay, so you've got watch me roll out my North English experience. So you've got the Lakes District up there, up in the north of England. You've come to Australia. There's lots of places look a bit like the Lake District. Where was the first place you went in a four-wheel drive / outdoor / camper van / caravan in Australia?
Broken Hill.
Yeah, love Broken Hill, John.
Loved it up there. Yeah, just the big difference between the UK and up there is just the size of the sky. It's just enormous.
And the dirt's a different colour.
It's not often blue. It's a different colour. The sky's not often blue in Yorkshire. It was up there. Dirt's a different colour. You can just see for a long way. It's the scale of that. It's just amazing.
We were talking to someone this week about this exact subject, not being aware of you coming on, so it was just ironic that sometimes a lot of nothing can still be very interesting, and driving anywhere toward or away from Broken Hill, there's a periods of time where you think, there's not a lot to see, but sometimes nothing is actually rather entertaining.
I think so. And it's just being the perception of being by yourself, being out there, with no other people. Very hard to do when you're living in the UK or in Europe, but there's something quite magical about that, to think you're out there with nature. Obviously, there are people not far away, but it feels completely different. Yeah, it's a great feeling.
And the whole concept of a whole lot of nothing being entertaining is the premise upon which this show has been based for the last 2.5 years.
And we do it very well. Hey, John, the idea of someone saying, well, I've got 2 weeks off, I've got a caravan or camper van, and we're just going to drive out the gate and turn left and see where it takes us, that sort of works okay. But the reason I was asking about planning trips, you can actually, without needing to do a huge amount of research, is just places that people have gone before, treks that have been made, interesting places to see, and that would be one of the joys of going to a show like yours. And you have answered the question by saying there are ways to look into this, but also sometimes not knowing what you're going to be doing from one day to the next in Australia is not a bad thing either.
Oh, I think so. That's the spirit of adventure, isn't it? Sort of go out and see where you're going to end up. I mean, it's probably a little bit easier to do in Northern England than it is in Australia. You can take a wrong turn here and end up on the wrong road, and it's a very long drive.
Yeah. Without a petrol station.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen too much north of England, and if you do, you bump into a pub and you're generally okay.
John, that's an interesting point about petrol stations too. We've got different sorts of vehicles. I know I drive a motor car that runs only on gas, and I do know that gas at service stations is on the decline, and on the other end of the scale we've got electric vehicles and they need charging stations. Is that another important part of planning a trip that may be covered off during your camping show?
Yeah, so it's trip. It all comes back to trip planning and knowing how far you're going to go and what you need to do. So going back to the show and shine I was talking about, a lot of the vehicles on there, the tourers, the terrific tourers that we have, they're built for touring, long-range trips. They often have long-range fuel tanks, i.e. double or triple the size, and so they can get you a certain distance. If you're going to cross the Simpson, there's no point in going without having those long-range fuel tanks in. So you need to understand where you're going and what you're doing and be prepared for it, because and where the petrol stations are, because then they are only in certain locations and they're not everywhere. So yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really important point. Once once you get outside, you know, a state like Victoria, and you're off into New South Wales or Queensland, you've got to be prepared.
Now, I've only ever owned one four-wheel drive, and that was a Kia Sportage. And when I told people because it is a four-wheel drive, it had, you know, the shift and everything like that, people laughed at me and said, that's not a four-wheel drive, that's a four-wheel drive. And there's obviously levels of extremity in terms of, you know, the traditional grey nomad who gets in their car and their caravan, they drive to the Gold Coast, versus someone who does the Simpson Desert. On a scale of ridiculously extreme to quite conservative, is your show focused on one end of that spectrum or the other?
We focus on everything.
Right. So if you're
So if you have a lot of money you want to spend, and you know, if you're coming to buy the latest Ram or one of the big new F-154s that are coming out, and you want to spec it up, the show can cater for that. If you have a pre-1996 Toyota, or you know, something that you're looking to add to that, or an old Patrol, you know, you could be in your early 20s, you bought your first Patrol and you're just trying to do that up. We cater for that side of things as well. So, you know, the scale of this show is about catering for everybody.
Well, before we find out exactly when and where and all that kind of stuff, we do have, very generously provided by John and the team at the National 4x4 Outdoor Show, we do have 2 free tickets to the event, which is on next weekend. We decided to get you on a week early so that people could plan. See, there you are, trip planning. Now, to get those 2 tickets, what we need is, for when you next hear an Australian group on this show, right? So there'll be a piece of music played by an Australian group coming up between now and the end of the program. As soon as you hear that piece of music, text through to the number that I gave before, 04999 radio, or 0499 972 346, with this answer. Are you ready for the creativity of this question?
Here we go.
Because it is the National 4x4 Outdoor Show, the answer that we need from you is, what is 4 times 4? We just need the number, right? So what is 4 times 4 when you hear the next piece of music played by an Australian group? Do not send it through now because you'll be disqualified. What is the answer to 4x4? And we will hear that via 04999 radio, 0499 972 346, via SMS or WhatsApp. First ones through gets a double pass to this show.
I can hear abacuses clicking all around the region.
Well, the good news is the answer is less the number of fingers and toes you've got. So you will be able to do some mathematics and work that one out. So, John, we will have at least 2 people coming up to the show from this part of the world. I think Robin will be there as well if they can. So, tell us where, tell us when, tell us what people can expect.
It's next Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the Melbourne Showgrounds next to Flemington. It's open 9 to 5 each day. Parking is at the Flemington Racecourse. Plenty of parking to available for the show. And yeah, it's Melbourne's biggest 4-wheel drive and outdoor exhibition. So come on down and bring the kids. Kids are free, under 16. Plenty of activities and things for the kids to see and do as well. So it's a great family day out.
And if you are listening to us in Melbourne, as a number of people are, you can, of course, also catch the tram along, I think it's Union Road, isn't it, there? We're just out the front of the showgrounds, so you can do that by public transport as well. Not sure the train out to the showgrounds is running. That only happens, I think, during the racing carnival, I think.
No, the train's running.
Oh, the train's running. Well, there you go. You can go by train as well.
Yeah.
And as they used to say, once you go by train, you'll want to go by train again, was the advertising campaign all those years ago. So it is the Royal Melbourne Showgrounds this coming weekend. That will be the 18th, 19th and 20th of August from 9 to 5, Friday, Saturday, Sunday next week. They've got to be out by then because the show's going to be on in a few weeks after that, so they'll have to move on after that. John, thank you for being part of the show and thank you for your generous donation of a couple of tickets for our listeners. And if anyone is there and they see John and you walk up and say, I heard about you on the Two Blokes Chatting radio show, you'll give them a free handshake, won't you?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Judd. Much appreciated.
Great, and thanks for the chat, John.
Best wishes, John.
John Perry, the event director for the National 4x4 Outdoors Show.